Hey everybody, I have a couple things. Some of them is along the shamanic line of thought. Maybe some of it doesn't sound like so, but I think it does. And to start off with, like yesterday I was logged out of my Instagram account. During the live chat that I was doing, people were telling me, hey, I just got logged out and then came back on. And a couple people said that and then boom, I'm gone. It's like, right. And to this right now, I still can't get onto that, so 24 hours later. And I looked at it, and people, when I mentioned to other people, like, wow, man, you lost your account after 200,000 followers and all that. First off, I want to prove that's the illusion of some of these social media platforms, that you have X amount of followers, and that's supposed to actually mean something. Yeah, if I had an audience full of 100,000 people speaking, I'm like, I might make some money today. But I think a lot of them were bots, and even more of them after that might have been just trolls looking for something to report me on, and so on. And the reason I call this kind of I don't know if it's a really important, semi-important, but interesting issue, is the social media platforms can be good for sharing information. I mean, I really believe that the whole COVID pandemic was busted open because of people like me pointing out some inconsistencies in the narrative, and then also relaying information from other real medical professionals that had real information that was common sense based. And, because I'm older, I can go ahead and relate to some issues that were happening long ago that make things happening today look even stupider. And when we look at that too, you can also use these social media platforms, if you want to think that your followers are actually real people, of a barometer, basically a litmus test to the consciousness and the attitude of the people themselves. Like in public speaking, you're going to look at people's body languages and what they're doing during your lecture. And so if they're just sitting there really looking at you, they're looking to get the information. If they start really fidgeting or crossing their arms and legs and talking to their friend, especially if they're in the front row, something like that, they couldn't give a shit about what you're saying. You may as well just stop now. When you get lots of little conversations going on, that's an issue. And I've seen that with other people speaking, and because if I'm in a line of people, and they ask what order would you like to speak, I like to choose the end, either the beginning or the end, nowhere in the middle, because you'll get lost in that mess. And so when I'm looking at this and pointing out some obvious facts, enough of the obvious facts that would bother the control unit of those platforms and attract a lot of the alleged followers, but yet there's no response. And so when people are asking me, hey, organize something, do something, and I try, but then there's zero response to it. Or in this case, 2 days after I started organizing something that might really catch on, I get deplatformed, or at this time just logged out. I think they do that logged out. And this happened to me a couple times on my 4 TikTok accounts. They take a couple days to review it before they just totally shit can you. Maybe looking for criminal content. I don't know. But the people, and you start to look at this, and then so the shamanic aspect and relationship of this is when you start giving people good information. You give them information that starts to change their life, change their career direction, and you'll watch them making great progress, and then just start to pull back, like, well, I know enough to do it my way, and then fail. And then they just come back and start to do more things, and then just kind of like shit on the information that you gave them and just go back to lame practices and so on. It's just, if you start to look at this, as I do, into the hundreds of thousands or and I say hundreds of thousands because I've had different platforms that get up to that much or close to get shut down. Yeah, a lot of them are repeat people, okay, following me from platform to platform. But still, within them, if they're that attracted to the information, the real mystery is, why don't they use it? Why don't they do anything? Again, you would have to assume it's fear-based. Fear of rejection, fear of some kind of persecution, fear of whatever, which is inevitable if you don't push back And again, our world wars were great examples of that. And then we also have other forms of historic events leading to somewhat similar. They see something starting, growing, and they don't intercede, and then therefore they're victims of their own inactions. And even now, a lot of what's going on, it's not just going to be a civil war, a global World War III of a completely different nature, more insidious, more behind the scenes and under the surface type of warfare, as they're useful idiots to infiltrate the countries, all in the name of, equity, fairness. Stop being a racist, stop being paranoid, stop being a conspiracy theorist. And the crimes that are being committed now were projected, in the past, recent past, and then people look at it like, well, it's because people like you are pointing out the crimes. Okay, So the reason I want to post this on this particular platform too, or in this chat, is as we're seeing the world change faster and faster and not so much in a good direction, you can have blinders on and just go ahead and sell another narrative hoping to cash out before the inevitable happens. Or you really can take an opportunity to really study the aspects of human nature, because that's what you're going to be dealing with, when internet does go down or communications fall, food chain gets interrupted and so on. You're really going to have to understand the human animal and what powers it, what really drives it in what particular direction, whether it's fear, whether it's desire, just blind lust, panic, and panic and fear I don't think are the same. You have the fear and then they get overwhelmed, then they panic, and it's just totally illogical actions after that. But that's what's going to be part of the environment. And historically we've just seen that over and over again. And the people who are controlling the world, they can do that because they're a small group, so disciplined and focused and consistent in achieving their goals and agenda. And then the people that are just kind of like sheeple, this is what they want to do, the people in control, and they're going to accomplish it like they always have, because they know that there's no resistance. So we're thinking, well, Hawk, it's not a very cheerful message and so on. How spiritual is this? Well, the spiritual part about this is what you get out of it and how you change, and as this progresses. And you really have to give that some thought. Do I think that they can completely? No, I think there'll be a lot of wreckage before anything really comes out of it. But the people controlling it don't care, because they'll always be comfortable. Even after Europe was just being totally destroyed, they still had their little nest, that were not being bombed, not being destroyed and so on. But there's also that a large war on humanity in general through food, through stuff that's being sprayed in the air, through pharmaceuticals. And the reason I also say this too, because if you're still in tune with the core of nature, you can be guided into the places you need to be when you need to be there. And you can not be there when you don't need to be there. You just get this feeling, I just need to go someplace now and leave everything behind. And don't get caught up in trying to save people that don't want to be saved, or they don't want to do anything at all. And it was an interesting thing in rescue work, trying to pull someone off of a sinking boat. They know it's sinking. They know if they hold on to it, they're going to drown, but they just won't. And they'll fight you to make sure that you don't get them to let go of that sinking boat. But meanwhile, somebody else will just get ready to jump right on you and go, what do you want me to do? What should I do? Okay, come on, I'll show you. Save those people. The ones that don't want to do this, I even had to pry a child away from a woman's arms on a sinking boat. Catamaran shouldn't have been out in the ocean that day anyway, and then assault her to get the child away from her. And then she followed me. So her primal instinct to save her child a moment earlier was to die with it, that got her to come with me. you know. And so that's the human animal in panic. And right now, I think the other aspect that we're seeing in the theater of humanity is denial. And that's another thing that comes with fear. Just, no, this isn't happening. It's not happening. Well, yeah, it is. You know, it really is. And so the powers to be want to make sure that people like me, we do not give people an avenue to go to escape this. They want to make sure that they capture these people and subject them. I mean, think about it. If we, back in 2020, if people just stood up, a small percentage, 0.001% of the population would just stood up and go, this is just bullshit, this whole COVID thing, you know, then that wouldn't have happened. People wouldn't have died. People wouldn't have lost businesses, lost education, lost so much, lost their confidence in any authority figures. So now, if you don't have a population that's confident in their authorities, you have a dangerous situation. They can be easily manipulated into something that looks easy. Democratic societies always vote themselves to, into extinction through something easy. And again, it's a human trait. So as you can offer them all kinds of things to change their life, to manifest destiny, if a festival comes up where they can just sit around and spend just a little bit of money and get drunk or just stoned out of their mind, they'll do that first. So that's why when I'm planning, we're working with promoters in new areas, and they say the dates, I have to ask them, are there going to be any festivals, any holidays, anything going on that time? And they're like, why? And I tell them this. They're like, no. Oh, yeah. Yep. Experienced promoters will know this. You know, when they see it to happen, they plan something, and it just fails because you can go over here and just get drunk out of your mind for $20, you know. Or you can spend $20 to come in and listen to a few minutes of a lecture. It could change your life in a positive way. People will take the inebriation over everything. And this will always be your audience for the most part if you want to just be into public. If you're looking for a more focused audience, then you have to be really, really good at what you do. You have to be able to have a long record of healing people with terminal diagnosis. You have to have a long record of working with people with rehabilitation and working with people with money. You know, you can do that out in the everyday world. And the people who come from really poor economic backgrounds will usually have a tendency to be faster at turning back into the activities of instant gratification. You know, these are the ones that take the knowledge that you give them, shit on it, and just go out and party and do stupid stuff because it's there. And unfortunately, I tell my apprentices 1/10 of a population will even want to get into shamanism. Less than that, be real apprentices and decide to go ahead and be that shaman. But at the same time, it's almost the same numbers inside shamanism that will just wander off into just doing something or someone because they're there and instant gratification. So there's that part of people then who say, well, then why the fuck am I doing this at all? Why am I even going through the apprenticeship? Why am I doing because it's a personal choice. If you have X amount of time to be on this planet, incarnated as a human being, you know, what are you really getting out of it? With me, you know, and I've been doing this, like I said, as a career for 40 plus years. I still look at the knowledge that I get out of it personally. I look out of it the leverages that I get personally. And so to me, it's just something interesting. I like watching documentaries of information I may probably never use, but it was interesting, and I feel fulfilled that I learned something, you know, at a deeper level. And that's why I stick with it. And that's pretty much why I stick with shamanism. For the rest of you, you have to make your own personal choices.